Now risk priority. Risk priority is defined, I would say it is dependent upon the organization's risk tolerance factor. Let's assume an organization which is very new and wants to enter into the market of mobile computing, and he knows there is a risk, but he has to make an entry. So he may go ahead. He may say that, okay, whatever risk happens, I will go ahead with that. That is not a problem with me. So some organization may be where some organization may think, okay, if I go, then there will be an impact on my reputation or the impact of the workmanship which my entire team has done. So probably that organization may think, okay, let's do a calculated, let's work on the risk and see what category it is, and then we decide whether to go or not to go. Then defining the priority of a risk is dependent on the risk tolerance level in the organization and the objective of the project. See, organization tolerance and the risk tolerance level in the organization and the objective of the project, these are two different things. Now you need to think about the risk priority, okay, based on the project objective rather than organization objective. Risk priority level vary from low to medium to high, which we already have discussed in our impact API matrix. Now calculating the probability and impact values for each risk. Just as we said, I said that these are those scales which we saw in our previous slides. Those are the basis on which you can calculate the probability and impact values for each risk. If you don't have those things, those predefined definition or agreed upon definition within your organization, I think it is very difficult for you to assign the PI, the probability and impact values for each of the risks which are identified in your risk register. Then how do you assign a probability value to an identified risk? There are various methods. Just like you talk about having an expert judgment, you talk to your technical team and take their view about whether the risk will materialize or whether the opportunity can materialize so that we can cash upon it. Or you can refer, because every organization has some historical information where you can refer those information and check out there a same type of project was carried out 2 years down the line, and they also had encountered this risk. How did they mitigate those, or how did they try to cope up with this risk? So those information can also be helpful to you. Or there are certain tools where you can use your Monte Carlo or your what if scenario and use the simulation to work out the PI matrix or to assign a probability and impact value for each risk. Then there are industry enterprise environmental factors, that is your industry database or benchmark. So based on this thing, you can assign a probability value to each of the identified risks. Now the impact of an risk can be measured qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Every organization has its own way of looking at risk, whether they want to see the quantity or they want to see the quality. It is dependent upon the organization. Risk data quality. This is very important thing in risk management, because when we are talking about risk management, we are talking about the information which we have collected. On the basis of that information, we are saying that this is a risk. So now you need to ensure that the data which you have collected about the risk or the opportunity that we materialize is of the required quality, because it should not happen that somebody was talking about it, so I put this as a risk. No, you have to have the data source which is coming from should be a valid source, and there should be some justification towards it that this is a risk. Anybody cannot say that the resource availability is a risk. I do agree resource availability is a risk, but then how do we, on what basis are you saying that? The quality of the data which you are availing, it is of very prime importance. Not only that, the source of information, the legitimacy of the information, and how dependable. These are the things which you need to examine before putting that risk into the risk register. It's basically, I would say, is a pre-qualification, verifying the data, what you have received about a risk, and then only enter it into a risk register. This will not only help you to reduce the list of risks, but also you are confident enough that you can handle this risk at any point of time, because this information has come from a reliable source, or this information is very legitimate, so I can work on it. Now, these are the characteristics of risk. I hope everybody is known about it. When we know there is going to a risk to happen, okay, this is a known risk to us. Just as the common known risk is that I was discussing previously was about resource availability, because at the end of the day, for any project, it is the people who are working on it, and people are human beings. It can happen that a team member who is working on your project suddenly quits, or it may also happen that the person who was working on your project is sick, or he has an emergency at home and he has to go back. So this is about a known risk which we know. So as a project manager, you need to work on this and be ready with the contingency plan or with the proper response for this. Now, if you're talking to me about a response, what I normally do is that for HR, for resource management, I ensure that the team members who are working with me are listed down. I have their leave plan, I have their, I have all these things, and I have their leave history. This is proactiveness from which we can do. Other than that, this is what the proactiveness. But other than that, the emergency, you cannot calculate on it. Now coming back to the second part, known unknown. Item that will affect you, although you are not able to predict how and how much they will affect. Just as I said about the resource not available. Now, resource not available, but at what point of time, when, and how much is going to impact you, you don't know. So this is known unknown. There are other risks, but I'm just using that same example down and down. Unknown unknown. Items that are beyond your ability to foresee, example, force majeure. Now let's assume that you are working on a project where suddenly some flood comes or something. So that this is unknown. You don't have any control over it as a project manager or an organization, whatever it is. There is no control over it. Then we are talking about risk trigger. An event that happens before a risk and suggests the possibility of the occurrence of the risk event. Just let's take an example, the risk trigger. Okay, now I'm talking about estimate. Now you know we all all the organizations in IT are global. So the fluctuation of the dollar value has an impact on the entire estimate which we have done. Let's assume the scenario where 8 months down the line we had taken some X conversion factor of dollar, but down the line when you can see that the rupee getting devaluated and all that, and see the dollar price rising. So probably that's a trigger which you can see that is going to impact your cost, impact your profit margin. And when it impacts your profit margin, it percolates down to the level which we need to evaluate it in a proper way. Now coming to the positive risk. Positive risk is nothing but an opportunity that impact project objective positively. I can cite an example about how I mean how the risk which was there, but I was able to materialize into into an opportunity. Okay, what happened was that there was a delay in the procurement of the networking components, and we also had to procure the servers, and the vendor chosen was a single vendor, and the vendor was ready for offering 50% discount if he receives both the network component and the server component order. Already there was a delay in the network component. So to get the opportunity, there were certain things which were beyond the control, and the procurement order placement of the network component got delayed, and which aligned with the time of the server component. So we took this opportunity and availed that 50% discount, even though there was an overall impact on the project. But then that's how that's part of project. Talking about negative risk, I believe everybody is aware what is negative risk is all about. This is a very good picture, or graph which I would say. If you are seeing the probability and impact of risk across all the phases of a particular project, whenever you take any project, at the beginning you see that the risk in the project are very high, very high. If you are not sure whether the customer really needs this, whether you are not sure whether you will get the required team, you are not sure whether you will be able to complete on time, you are not sure whether the contract or whether the other required stuff will be available to you on time. So, but as time progresses, the risk probability decreases a lot. So when you are at the closing phase, the risk probability is not zero, but it is very low. Similarly, the impact has a reverse. Whereas when you are starting a project, you are not sure how much it would impact if there is any change or anything happening in the project. So you are not sure. So the impact of the risk impact is very low in the starting phase of or initiating phase of the project. But as you progress, if there is any risk which would occur, the impact of this risk would be higher and higher as we progress toward the closing phase of the project. I believe there is no questions for me. I saw something flashing. Okay. Now coming back to the stakeholder perception about risk. As you know, when you're doing any project, there are various stakeholders. So a stakeholder's perception about risk is very crucial because it controls the way in which risks are handled and documented. As an organization, you know that this risk is not, if it occurs also, I do have a mitigation plan. But the customer, who is one of the stakeholders, has a perception about this risk very negative. He says that, oh, this occurs and it is going to impact me very badly. So these are the things which these are things which are trying to highlight by this particular slide. Apart of this, I would suggest here is that basically you have to communicate whatever the risk register. The discussion means when you are talking about during a project review meeting or anything, project progress meeting or project review meeting, what or status review meeting, whatever you call it, the discussion of risk should be an agenda in those meetings, and you should run the risk register to the stakeholders and take their view on or check with them whether they have any update on any of the risk, and this will really help you to be ready, to be proactive in mitigating or finding a solution to this risk. Just again, when we talk about stakeholder, we are not talking about the customer itself. We are talking about the stakeholder who are outside your organization. Just as you are building a online service for people to update their information or to have some online ticketing solutions. So in those scenarios, you need to check what is the external environment and how people would react to it. These are the things which I'm trying to mention in the third point. Now, coming back to as a project manager, okay, as a project manager, what is your role? Basically, you need to not only the role of the project manager, but a very important part is that when you are doing your risk management plan, you need to have the roles and responsibilities properly defined. So this would really be very helpful in identifying the risk, in finding a solution to the risk or trying to mitigate the risk, or to be ready with a response for the risk. Okay. As a project manager, talking specific about project risk management, you should involve your stakeholder and your senior management in risk management related action. This is how you can get your management support when you are involved, when you're talking about when you're doing your risk management. Create an effective risk management plan. Obviously, this is a part of the organization strategy where you would be taking care of. Facilitate open communication between various stakeholder and involved parties. Then identify risk and uncertainty involved in the project. Devise response and plans to counter all the risks. Perform various analysis techniques to obtain near foolproof estimate. There's a typo error. It's a foolproof estimate. And continuously monitor and audit the risk. Escalate any issues that threatens to affect the outcome of the project. Keep stakeholder and management about important decisions. So, as a project manager, if you are able to if you do all this stuff, probably this is what you can very easily manage the project risk and meet your project objective with very less effort. I have a question, I think. How do we identify, let's take this question. How do we identify risk related to variability of the estimate, since we will not be sure of variability at the beginning of the project? Related to variability of estimate, okay, just as I said, okay, let's assume a scenario, okay, where you have proposed an X amount for doing the particular task, okay, that's your estimate, okay, but when after you have been awarded the project to go ahead with that, and you come to know that, okay, basically the type of resource which was taken at that point of time, okay, or the cost of the resource which was taken at that point of time is now no more available. So that is how it is. Let's assume that you had estimated using what I would say a resource who had 2 to 3 years of experience. Now you don't have a resource of that category. Now you have a resource who is 7 to 8 years of experience, and he falls under a different pay scale. So obviously that is again your variance towards it. So that is what I am trying to say. Have I answered your question, Gopal? I think we'll take all these questions later. I think I'm about to finish the slides. Okay. So, now talking about risk acceptance.